The alarm cut through the classroom before anyone had time to breathe. Red light swept across the walls of Thren Station Primary, and 22 students froze at their desks. My cat Mochi was already awake. She had been asleep on my desk 2 seconds earlier, curled up like nothing in the galaxy mattered, and now she was standing, ears up, eyes locked on the vent above Corlin Bem's desk. Something had gotten loose. Not Corlin's pet, though that was part of the problem. A maintenance drone, one of the small ones that crawled through the station's air ducts fixing wiring, had been struck by a burst of static from the station's old power grid. It had gone haywire, sparking as it moved, and it had knocked open a duct panel on its way past. Corlin's pet, a soft gray creature everyone called a pillow because of its shape, had bolted straight into the open vent, chasing the sparks like they were a game. Miss Ravel, our teacher, tried to speak in her calm classroom voice, the one she used for spelling tests, but even she could not hide the shake in it. Everyone stay seated. Station control is aware. This will be resolved. Nobody stayed seated. On Thren Vashti, our teacher's home planet, nothing in the ecosystem had ever needed to chase or be chased. Every animal in that room, including several of my classmates, had grown up without a single predator anywhere in their history. Panic did not look like screaming to them. It looked like stillness, wide eyes, bodies locked in place, waiting for a danger their bodies did not know how to run from. I looked at my friend Grace Ashford, sitting 2 seats away, gripping the edge of her desk so hard her knuckles had gone pale. "The vent leads to the old airlock corridor," she said quietly. "If that drone keeps sparking near the door seals, it could trip the emergency release." I did not know much about station engineering, but I knew what an airlock was for, and I knew what happened if one opened while people were near it. Mochi jumped down from my desk before I could stop her. She moved fast, the way she always did when something had her full attention, a blur of gray fur crossing the classroom floor in a straight line toward the open vent panel. I called her name, but cats do not come running just because you ask them to, especially not when there is something to chase. "Mochi, wait." She was already inside the duct. Miss Ravel spun around, all 6 of her hands pressed to her chest. "Your creature has entered the ventilation system. That area is not safe for a small animal." "She's not small," I said, already moving toward the vent myself, "not where it matters." I should have stopped to think it through. I did not. I grabbed the edge of the open panel, boosted myself up, and climbed inside after her, ignoring Miss Ravel calling my name behind me. The duct was narrow, lit only by strips of emergency lighting every few meters, casting long orange shadows that stretched and shrank as I crawled. Somewhere ahead I could hear the pillow creature's frightened chirping, and beneath that, a low electrical crackle that meant the broken drone was still close by, still sparking. I moved as fast as the tight space allowed, elbows scraping metal, heart pounding hard enough that I could feel it in my throat. This was not like anything I had trained for. There was no drill for this at school. There was only the sound of my own breathing and the distant hum of the station's air systems working around me. The duct opened into a wider junction, and I found Mochi crouched at the edge of it, tail low, completely still except for the twitch at the very tip. Below us, through a gap in the grating, I could see the old airlock corridor Grace had warned me about. The pillow creature was pressed into a corner near the emergency release panel, and the broken drone hovered just above it, sparking every few seconds, close enough that one bad spark could reach the panel's exposed wiring. If that wiring caught a spark at the wrong moment, the airlock door could trigger open on its own, and the corridor beyond it led straight to an unpressurized maintenance bay. Nobody was supposed to be near there during school hours, which was exactly why nobody had noticed the fault yet. I keyed my communicator with a shaking hand. "Grace, are you there?" Her voice came back fast, steady despite the panic I knew she had to be feeling. "I'm here. Station control says the drone's control chip is fried. They can't shut it down remotely. Someone has to pull it away from the wiring by hand, but nobody's suited up to reach that corridor in time." "I'm already close," I said. "I can see it." "Leo, that panel is live. If you touch it wrong..." "I'm not touching the panel." Mochi had not waited for either of us to finish the conversation. She dropped through the gap in the grating before I could grab her, landing without a sound on the corridor floor below, low and controlled, the kind of landing that told you her whole body had been built for exactly this. The pillow creature saw her and froze completely, the way prey freezes when it realizes running is no longer an option. The drone kept sparking overhead, oblivious, still trying to complete whatever broken task its fried circuits were stuck on. I climbed down after her as carefully as I could, dropping the last meter and landing hard on my hands and knees. My palms stung, but I barely noticed. Every part of my attention was on the small drama unfolding in front of me. A scared alien creature pinned in a corner, a malfunctioning drone sparking above it, and my cat sitting perfectly still between them, watching, waiting, reading the moment in a way none of us could. "Mochi, easy," I said, though I had no idea if she needed the reminder or if she was already exactly where she wanted to be. She moved in one motion, quick and precise, not toward the pillow creature at all, but up. She used the drone's own hovering body as a stepping point, pushing off it hard enough to knock it sideways and away from the panel, then landed cleanly on the far side of the corridor. The drone spun off course, sparks scattering harmlessly against the far wall instead of the exposed wiring, and finally powered down completely, its damaged systems giving out from the impact. For a moment nobody moved. The pillow creature stayed pressed in its corner, shaking. Mochi sat down calmly a few feet away, and began cleaning one paw as though nothing unusual had happened at all. "Leo," Grace's voice crackled through the communicator, tight with relief. "Station control just confirmed the wiring is safe. Whatever you did, it worked." "It wasn't me," I said, watching Mochi finish grooming her paw without a single glance at the door she had just saved from opening. It was her. By the time station maintenance reached the corridor, the danger was already over. A technician named Owen Marsh arrived first, running a scanner over the dead drone and letting out a low whistle when he saw how close the sparks had come to the panel wiring. "Another few seconds and that door pops open on its own," he said, mostly to himself. "Good thing something knocked it clear in time." He looked at Mochi, who had wandered over to sniff his tool bag with the same lazy curiosity she showed everything that was not currently a threat, and he laughed under his breath, shaking his head like he did not quite believe what he was looking at. Corlin's pillow creature finally uncurled from its corner once the drone had been carried away. It crept toward Mochi slowly, sniffing the air, and Mochi let it come without so much as flicking an ear. When it reached her, it pressed itself against her side, still trembling, and she simply sat there and let it, the way she might have let a kitten of her own species do the same. Miss Ravel arrived a few minutes later, moving faster than I had ever seen her move, all 6 hands raised in front of her like she was ready to catch someone falling. When she saw both of us standing there, safe, and saw the shutdown drone being carried away in a maintenance case, she stopped completely still in the corridor entrance. "You climbed into an active ventilation system during a station fault," she said, her voice somewhere between relief and disbelief. "She climbed in first," I said, nodding at Mochi. "I just followed." Miss Ravel looked at my cat for a long moment, the way you look at something you thought you understood completely, and suddenly realize you never understood at all. "On Thren Vashti," she said slowly, "we do not have a word for a creature that runs toward danger instead of away from it. We have never needed one." "We have a few words for it," I said. "Most of them just mean cat." Back in the classroom, once everyone had settled and the station's alarm lights had faded back to their usual soft blue, Grace slid into the seat next to mine, still catching her breath from having talked me through half the corridor over the communicator. "You're going to give me gray hair," she said. "And I'm 12. She's the one who did it," I said, glancing down at Mochi, who had already curled back up on my desk, exactly where she had been sitting before the alarm ever sounded, as though the last 20 minutes had been nothing more than a short walk. Grace watched her for a moment, then smiled. "I think everyone in this class owes her an apology for calling her harmless." Corlin's pillow creature was tucked safely back in its carrier by then, though it kept peeking out every so often to look toward Mochi, as if checking that she was still there. Vesik Thur leaned across the aisle to get a better look, her earlier fear from the pet demonstration completely replaced by something closer to fascination. "She chose not to hurt it," Vesik said, "even now, even after everything." "She never wanted to hurt it," I said. "She just wanted to make sure it stopped being a problem." Miss Ravel wrote something new on the classroom board, once the lesson resumed, right below the line about apex predators from earlier in the week. This time it simply read, "Calm under pressure," and she did not explain it further, because by then, nobody in that room needed her to. Mochi slept through the rest of the day, undisturbed, the way she always did, as if saving a corridor full of people from an open airlock was just another Tuesday, and in her mind, it probably was.